Alrighty, everyone. Good afternoon, and once again, welcome to today's webinar, The Next Dollar Investing in Academic Growth. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we get started, I do have a few quick housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded, and all registrants will receive a copy of the recording after today's session. If you have any questions during the presentation, please enter them in the Q&A panel at any time. We will try to answer as many as possible, and if we don't get to your question, someone from our team will reach out to you to follow up. Today, we are joined by our own Mary Pahisa Upchurch, EVP of Customer Success at Grady I, as well as Dr. Kathy Vosovich, Provost and Senior Vice President of Academic and Student Affairs at Lindenwood University. During today's discussion, they will explore how institutions can make smarter investment decisions when evaluating new academic programs. With that, I will turn things over to Mary to get us started.
Thank you, Regan. For everyone in the West, good morning. I'm based out of Phoenix, so for me, it's still morning. And for everyone else to the east of us, good afternoon. We are delighted to have you join us. We wanted to start out by picking up from a theme that started earlier in our master classes this year about the turbulent 20s. And while it has been quite turbulent, things have seemed mostly to settle down. And while nothing is always smooth, hopefully most days at the office are a little bit easier, but sometimes not so much. And lately, there's been quite a bit of change and continued pressure points that everyone is dealing with. Go ahead and flip, please, Monica. There's a few I want to bring up and touch on right now because they actually deal with this topic about where you invest at your institution and how strategically important those choices and options are becoming. I think, as you all know, the Gallup polls have been very discouraging recently. This is the one from 2025, and it shows the continued downward trend about Americans' thought process relative to whether or not college is very important or not. And it's fallen to an all-time low at 35% in the most recent time period. Go ahead and flip, Monica. And then if you take a look at the confidence in higher education institutions, it's not a happier perspective either. A lot of concerns about what's happening. And then finally, if you look at it across groups, Monica, flip, it's pretty predominant. It's continued to erode with concerns about the perceived value of a college education. Now, there's a lot of empirical data, including studies that have been published out of Georgetown, for example, demonstrating the value of a college degree. But still, the choices that an institution makes, the programs that it offers, are being scrutinized today more than ever, which means also your evaluation and choices that you're making where you're going to invest mean more. Please flip, Monica. Now, there's other things to be considered, not just launching new. When we talk about growth, growth can come in a lot of different areas, and it can be impacted or roiled by a number of factors affecting your institution. Student retention is a big area, and it's an opportunity for growth. It's also a challenge because when you actually do acquire new enrollment growth, if you can't hold on to the student, it still puts downward pressure on you, as well as some of the other newer requirements that are coming out in terms of wages and performance for degrees and, of course, outcomes. So considering programs, opportunities, and evaluations really does need to think about a wide range of factors as you're approaching the assessment. And I want to mention a few things because today is not going to be about doom and gloom. Today is really about how you want to consider growth and potential in your institution, where the sources of it might be, how you can evaluate it, and how, as an institution, you can have a conversation that engages all of your stakeholders, both internal and external. And Kathy will be speaking to that in great depth in terms of what Lindenwood tackled. From our standpoint at Grady I, we think about it in terms of the information that you need to have as you want to consider your options and the matching against your strategic priorities, the stakeholder needs that you have, and how you want to move forward. And so noted here on the screen are just a series of things that from our standpoint are quite relevant to the discussion, starting with external market information, what's going on, what are students interested in, are the demand levels sufficient for you to invest in a program in that area, or if you're already offering it, can you sustain it? And then your competitive analytics that go with it. mapped up against what employers are looking for, if that's a field of study that you're looking for outcomes for your graduates to have. And then it becomes a question of, well, where are students going and who's voting where with their feet and how, and in how size of a volume. Can you persist and retain? And can you also attract in that space? Economically, can you deliver the program, and can you do it at a level that is functional for the institution, warrants the investment choices that you may want to make, whether it's a current program or a new program? And then your ability to assess choices. Oftentimes, program investment, whether it's current programs or new programs, is a question about trade-offs. Whether or not you have the resources to do it, whether or not you can find the resources to do it. Do you want to spend the money working with something you already have that has the potential to be bigger, or do you want to add something new? So the ability to compare scenarios to find the best options becomes very, very critical, as well as understanding the impacts. And you want to do that as early on in the process as possible so you don't sink a ton of time into evaluating and researching only to get to the end point and realize it should not be a go. Now, to function effectively means you need to think about stakeholder engagement. And that means an ability to have alignment and sharing information, whether it's internal data sharing, external data sharing, the ability to explain the value of an option, and the dialogue that you want to have to consider what's best for the institution. Transparency is very key, and the ability for people to have access to that information critical. And then finally, something you've heard very often if you've attended any of our webinars, this is not just a, one and done. This is now an environment where ongoing, very present evaluation, continuous program review processes are important. And that means the ability to have data available as things evolve and documentation to support it. So with that, I'd like to hand the microphone over to Kathy, because she has a very compelling story to tell about how Lindenwood has actually tackled these challenges. Kathy?
Thank you. Well, you know who I am, so we can already go to the next slide and see who I wish I were, which is my dog, who's spoiled rotten, Star Wars fan. His name is Obi, as you might guess from the lightsaber. But in reality, I am Provost and Senior Vice President of Academic and Student Affairs because we wanted to have a holistic experience for the student, both in terms of the academics and what they can do on campus, and just compete in a different way. I have lots of academic experience. I have experienced all the way from teaching assistant in grad school to adjunct, and now all the way up to provost and senior VP. But I also have corporate experience. So I know what it takes to run a business, to look at data and to have data help to inform decisions. But because I am also an AI futurist and humanist, there's the human piece, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. As well as with my being an entrepreneur, I'm not afraid to move fast, and that's me in a nutshell, and my dog Obi. If we go to the next slide. So let's talk about Lindenwood. So if you get the pun, it's rooted, Lindenwood is a tree, in innovation. And I really like to tell this story because it was founded in 1832 by a woman, Mary Sibley, somebody's laughing, as a teaching college for young women, which was very, very different. We're the second oldest university west of the Mississippi, but we were focusing on a unique audience. We were relevant at the beginning, and we wanted to retain this relevance throughout what we're doing today, as well as focus on innovation. We're also unusual in that we're an independent D1 private university in St. Charles, Missouri, right in the middle of the country. We started our D1 program about 3-4 years ago. We offer more than 100 undergraduate and graduate degree programs, so we have a wide variety of what we can offer to students and to the community as well, because we do have some standalone certificates that the community can take, and we do invite the community onto campus. So we're very much aware of our region and where we belong and how we can help. We have programs that are on ground, blended, online, and we really are dedicated. And this is what drew me to Lindenwood, providing real experience for real success. So those get tied together very neatly. I also brought a strategy of focusing on what we're calling power skills. You might have heard them termed durable skills or transferable skills. But what we do here is we tell our students what they're learning. And you might say, yeah, big deal. But it's very, very important. You can't just assume they know what critical thinking is. You have to tell them. You have to model it for them. You have to teach them the human part, which is what I was referring to on the previous slide. So data informed, but human as well. Empathy, respectful communication. Those are our power skills that we teach our students. And when they go to an interview, when they do their resume, these are things they know are important to put on it. Leadership skills, etc., things like that. And we also have an AI strategy, which we're very proud of with um, doing AI assessments for the community and doing them internally. So we practice what we preach. If you go to the next slide, please, you'll see that we're very unusual. These are the college counts as of fall census of last year. And as all the academics know, that is the most recent census. We're coming up on a new one very soon. But if you notice, the College of Arts and Humanities is the largest. That's where AI is. We have the human-centered AI located inside that college. And I think that accounts for a large part of the differentiation and the other colleges, business and science, technology, and health, as you know, within fighting distance of each other. And education and human services, that's mainly online graduate growth. But that's who we are. And if you turn to the next page, I walked into this office and I had no one here. And so I had the great opportunity to create my team, to create my office. And some of the themes you'll see here really relate to what I'm going to be talking about in a second. I definitely knew I wanted an assistant provost of curricular innovation to focus on those power workplace skills. But it was the innovation, carrying from the theme of our founding to today. I wanted an assistant provost of assessment and accreditation to keep us in line with the HLC, to make sure we were doing things right, to make sure that we possess the right accreditation for us as a university, and for our students to know they were going to a school that had successfully achieved accreditation continuously for decades. And I also want an academic business analyst, and that was unusual. That was an unusual ask, and I was very grateful to the president for him to let me build it out in this way, because I thought we needed to have data-informed decision making for the deans in particular. And then this last one might seem small, but it's not. My student worker is the president of the LSG. So that was a strategic move, because I wanted to get student voice and the student input as well, sort of my test case. And I got to present to the Lindenwood student government as well about ideas and changes and what's relevant and what's not. And if you move to the next slide, please. This is just something that I sent to the team, which by the team in this case is practically the entire university, as a brief introduction about the tasks that were ahead of us in program review, because we want to, especially with our AI strategy, prepare students for any future, because jobs in the future may not be the jobs of the present. I know when I went to school, Microsoft didn't exist, and then I end up working at Microsoft. So we need to prepare students for any future. We initially did a review of our current programming, found that was out of sync. We have 134 programs on old documentation that we updated. It looked like we had more, and these were all on ground. And the same held true for online. So we knew we needed to relook at information with a new lens. And Gray gave us the opportunity to optimize our differentiation here. And I was really intrigued by, this is a piece of a Gray slide about keeping, transforming, sustaining, and sunset. There's another piece of it, a remix, that was my favorite part of it. If you go to the next slide. So, like all of you, there are competitive pressures out there. The students have financial friction. That's the number one thing, at least at our university, and I think probably at more, that students relay as being a problem for continuing at the university. So we knew we needed to change and validate, and we needed to do it fast. And if you know our president, fast means really fast. And he was right. And we thought we were already lean, and we were, but were we smart? And that's where we needed some outside input to take another look at us. We needed the data-informed processes to validate and inspire. My PhD's in English, so I'm definitely an optimistic, human-centered person in my vocabulary choice. But I do mean inspire. Inspire us to keep up our momentum, and inspire us to change, inspire us to think out of the box. And if you go to the next page, discussions about growth in the university and how do we grow were common. Here, I'm sure at other universities as well. But when we were working with Gray, I didn't just want it to be the academics on the invitee list, because the academics can look at programs, can look at data, but are they looking at consistent data? Are they looking at different data? I wanted everybody that I felt was a stakeholder to be a part of this process. So I blocked time on calendars. I emphasized these were priorities. Academics absolutely latched onto that immediately. And I put it all in context with what we typically do annually, which is growth and sunset process. We have annual program review. We have cyclical program review. And they're very important for us to make decisions. But I also wanted our academic leaders and executive leadership to get together for the trainings, to open up broader thinking and broader questions, look at new and different viewpoints, see if different choices could be made. And this was the best part because it was so meaningful to me to have the CFO come over and say, I love this. This is great. I didn't know this before. I'm learning so much. To have the enrollment management VP say, I loved it. I'm bringing my marketing team. My marketing team is coming in, and they were right down the hall, so they could come right in. So we were all together. We were all collaborating. We were all learning together. We were all understanding together and understanding each other and starting to speak the same language. So on the next slide, we had an ego-free, penalty-free discussion. We wanted to make sure we made the right decisions and determine what was right for this university. Are we indeed regional? Are we missing markets? We have a big online engagement through our programs. And so we had 2 days of reviewing materials and creating a wish list. And that was very informative. And if you go to the next slide, we also validated that wish list with reality, with our reality. And we also wanted to find ways to invest if this was something that hadn't been on the radar that now really fit us, fit our students, fit our region. We did a lot of strategic thinking, but big picture thinking. And this was important for the group too, because the academics might be focused on their college, that silo. But here's the big picture of how we grow together based on the data. And did we have building blocks, if you look at the last bullet on that slide, to remix for relevance? We have some really good pieces, but maybe they weren't in the right combo, right combination at the moment. And the workshop really, really helped with this, helped us to think big. And if you go to the next slide, please. We took some time in between, and we had another couple of days of workshops. We reviewed our current programming, not just a wish list, but what we actually had. And we asked questions like, are these programs relevant? And if they're not, why not? Do we think they're relevant, but there are no students in the program? Why do we still have that program? Is it a name? We asked all kinds of questions that were necessary for us to determine who we are, what the opportunities were, and what are the skills that are needed for immediate and successful work opportunities for our students. And we didn't, as the little picture says, we didn't want to wait for opportunity any longer. We wanted to create it. And the next page is really the success we had. These are the real results. We developed new programs. Now, the wish list included 34 new programs that were proposed and voted upon. And of course, we're not launching 34 new programs in a year. The HLC would not like us very much if we did that, and we'd be wrong. But we followed HLC, our accrediting body, and our university curriculum council processes, made informed decisions about what we could launch, remix, how we could collaborate, how we could work together. And this is what came out. So we realized that an applied AI BA would be great, and it's launching now. And it's because we had the AI expertise. We also have the National Geospatial Intelligence Institute here in St. Louis. And we are one of 4 universities in Missouri that actually has a relationship with them on paper, an EPA with them. And so that seemed like an incredible target for us. We're also launching this fall the Applied BA in Ethical Decision Making, human-centered, because there's always got to be a human being behind the AI to make the tough decisions, to create the correct prompts. AI can code, but there has to be a human in charge of that coding so that it's a good actor as opposed to a bad actor making the decision. Social innovation emphasis, continuing the tradition of innovation, and strategic communication emphasis, applied AI. How do you talk about it? How do you do social media about it? All kinds of things. We're also a university well known for our communication major. If any of you are baseball fans, Greg Amsinger is one of our graduates. If you're local to my region, we have newscasters, we have sports broadcasters who are all coming out of our university. It's a fantastic experience. And then we also, with the help of the NGA in St. Louis, developed the Geospatial Intelligence and Sustainability degree, which again is launching this fall, and we're going to have a big debut for it. So we made data-informed decisions. We looked at our region, we looked at the talent we had, and these are all remixes of things we had in place, but now are relevant right now, right here, right now for us, for the region. And out of the wish list, speech language pathology masters, that'll be next year's, and you can see the rest. Plus, we did 20 sunsets. So it was a big, big win. Not all of the sunsets were programs, some were certificates, but this gave us the lack of bias, the egoless approach to our review. And if you look at the next slide.
Kathy, if I may
Oh,
interrupt you for a moment,
sure,
if appropriate,
sure.
we have a couple questions. Not sure if you would like to address them now or maybe wait till the end.
Your choice.
Actually,
Uh,
I'm reading the questions. Monica, flip back one slide if you can.
Okay.
Because I think a number of these, Kathy, pertain to this
Okay.
content here. So, Regan, I don't know if you want to read out the questions or how you want to tackle these.
Yeah, I was gonna let her go through her Q&A at the end, but we can run through some now.
Okay.
So the first question that we had for you,
Ooh.
Kathy, was what's your voting and vetting process for new programs look like?
I have a sign out on my screen. I'm not going to click it, so I'm not going to be able to see the screen. I don't want to be logged out of this. Our vetting process is we have a tool called Curriculum, and the college has to propose a new program or a certificate or a minor or whatever it may be. And it has to get approved by the college curriculum committee as something that can be done. It also gets approved by our accreditation person, my assistant provost, because we want to make sure that we're not needing to do any updates. And we also require a feasibility study. And if we get to the last slide and I don't get logged out for whatever reason, that's mandatory part of our process now that we use Gray and see what the market is like, see what the margins are like, see what the number of students are like for us in the region in particular. But it's shoot, a dozen gates, but it moves through the gates very quickly. And we have meetings once a month to look at what the proposals are, among other things. But we do this annually. And it's an environment where we use Robert's rules, not because people are mean, but it's just because some folks talk, 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 and we want to give everybody a chance to talk. And so with Robert's rules, you have to wait till the next person talks before you can talk again. But it's a very energetic kind of interesting process that we have.
Amazing.
And Kathy, I'm sorry, if I could just add one other thing, because
Uh-huh.
the 34 new programs that were proposed and voted on, noted on the slide here in the workshop, there was a prioritization based on broad-based interest for all of the academic and administrative and operational team members that were in that workshop. And we had almost 60 people. And so everyone was given an opportunity to register some votes. There were basic rules. We
Uh-huh.
gave them a maximum number of votes, like 7, and the rules were you couldn't sell your vote and you couldn't stack your vote. But other than that, it was a good read because everyone had been involved in the broader conversations about the options available for the university. And they were wearing their university hat as well as their college and department hats. Nothing was lost out of that opportunity list, but it did give a good read where the group felt maybe initial efforts might be focused to begin the vetting, because you're going to lose a lot when you step through that. And then the detailing that Kathy talked about became the more in-depth review post-workshop.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kathy. I'll let you roll through the rest because we have about 4 other questions that have come in,
Okay.
and then I'll ask during your Q&A.
Oh, no problem. So our persistence updates, you can see in the red, we're close to 90% for traditional programs. I'm not including the graduate programs yet because those folks tend to sign up at the last minute. So this is for the traditional. But you can see that it's close to 90% for the undergrad campus right now, which is amazing. And students are signing up for the AI programs because they're really interested in them, whether it's because they're a little afraid or they're a lot interested. It runs the gamut for those programs. And then the last slide, just really quickly, are the process changes. So as I mentioned briefly, grade data is inserted into all grow, retain, sunset decisions. It's literally a requirement for all proposals, and it's used to validate proposals as it moves through the system. And what I have in the red box is just a screenshot of what I took from our curriculum tool that shows that we absolutely want the grade research to be supporting evidence. If they don't have it, they have to go back and get it to vet it so we can see if it's feasible. And it's a process we continue. And so my last slide is a woman lion, because we had a male lion at the beginning as our mascot. And so if there's time, I'll take questions. Sorry, I get excited about this stuff because it really was wonderful. And the programs we came up with were great.
This was fantastic, Kathy. So to start, I guess, are people able to contact you for more information about
Sure.
the vetting process? Okay, perfect.
Absolutely.
So what was the nature of the data that you reviewed from GradeEI?
The nature of the data. Well, we had, depending on what we picked as our region, we had what our competitors were doing, what our competitors were not doing. We looked at margin analysis. We looked at, oh, there's a pocket up there in Chicago. Maybe that's a place where we should invest in some marketing of our programs. And it was just an incredible amount of information all in one place. And what I think is truly the incredible piece is that the VPs came too, and they participated and they learned. And they were like, well, let's look at this region over here. Let's see if that's where any of our students come from. If maybe we should market over in Kansas City or Florida or Texas, or should we concentrate in this 150-mile radius? What if we scooted out to 165 miles? It just was a wonderful tool to play with, as the deans all say, but they get their information from it. And I hope that answers your question. But
Yeah,
the nature of the data was varied and very important data that helped us find everything in one place.
that's fantastic. When it came to your new programs that we're launching, did you need new faculty lines for those?
Well, that's why the remix was so important, because we had the experts, but they maybe could have been repositioned in a different place. So on the one hand, sometimes no. On the other hand, sometimes yes. And this is a good tool for you to show that we need more faculty in this certain area. It's great substantiation to make an argument for that, and it's taken very seriously by the strategic team and all the institutional upper management here.
Well, in your answer, you already answered my next question, which was whether or not you use Program Remix to assist in
Yes,
finding new
I love
programs.
it. I love it. That's my favorite.
Um, when it came to sunsetting programs, did any full-time faculty and staff have to be let go from those programs, or did you reposition them?
We mostly repositioned them. A couple of folks retired. And for the sunset programs, I don't have it handy. I don't recall any that were any. No, I take that back. Two positions were lost because of sunset programs, but they literally had 3 students in the program.
Thank you. And last question, and then Mary, you can take back over. Did you include alumni in your market research when you were gauging interest for new degree programs?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Alumni is very interested. I give a presentation every year. They want to know how the programs are doing. Of course, the older folks make jokes like AI, you mean A1 sauce? But once they listen to it and see a demonstration, it's really I want to say heartwarming. But like I said, our alumni contribute to the communications department. We have a fashion department. We have alumni there. We have great advisory boards where we include our alumni. Yeah, we get their input whenever we can.
Awesome. Thank you. And Mary, if you want to take it over from here.
Okay, thank you, Kathy, so much. So let me just touch on a few things here before we wrap up. And I want to start with how you can consider tackling the evaluation of your growth opportunities. Frameworks are oftentimes useful. We use them quite a bit. And there are about 3 major areas that you really want to take a look at as you're considering them. One is enrollment and projecting that, and actually trying to calculate it as accurately as possible, because size matters. And if it's not big enough to sustain, then it's probably not something you would want to undertake or expand if you have better opportunities on the table. The second is understanding your financials and being able to lay those out so you can begin to plan and see what the outcomes would be. And then finally, and Kathy's touched on this, and I'll touch on all the data that they use, looking at your existing resources to see what can be moved and what can be reconstructed. So it's basically leveraging what you already have. Please flip. So let me touch on first projecting enrollment. It kind of goes without saying, if the scale is wrong, your strategy can't be right. That would be your marketing strategy, your admissions strategy. So moving beyond just what has often been the standard national or market averages is rather important. And you should be thinking about customizing your sizing to your institution, the characteristics, the students you draw, the geographies that you draw from, and the balance against the rest of your portfolio. Are you deepening or expanding in an area that you're in, so you have more like and opportunities, and being careful then with cannibalization, or are you looking to enter into a new area? The next is the sizing opportunity itself. For new programs, you want to quantify that potential before you invest your very first dollar. So there've been many times we have heard the sizing on the financials and the enrollment have been backward calculated based on what you need to break even. That is really not the right thing, because you don't know if you can hit that number. So you want to take a look and establish on some kind of repeatable predictive component or evaluative component what your size could be, and move it from guessing to gauging. All right. And then current programs, there's where you want to make sure you don't overlook gold that you already have in your pocket. And if you have growth opportunities, you have star programs, what would it take to make them bigger? Maybe it's a different kind of an investment, but if you have the capacity to take on the enrollment, it's great. All of these matter in sizing that opportunity, so you can decide a go, no go, to then proceed to evaluating further. And then finally, please keep in mind, sizing errors really are opportunity cost challenges. and risks. So if your projection is too big on your sizing, you are likely to either overhire at faculty, possibly waste capital if you have to invest to start the program, and you may never see that desired expectation, either in terms of enrollment, completion, or balanced financials. And if it's too small, you may not be prepared for what's going to come at you, and you actually could open a competitive opportunity for someone else, and you don't want to leave that on the table either. Now, from discussing forecasting financials in the details, let's go ahead and flip, please. Let's start with accuracy here. And it really is anchored in the scale of what you're going to do, and your confidence needs to come from the details that are here. These are known, often very well-known items within your institution, or they're discoverable items. But once you have an accurate size projection, then forecasting your revenue becomes an easier discussion, because your head count and the sourcing of the types of student enrollment headcount will translate to your tuition. Is your strategy going to be in-state, out-of-state? If you have variances, it online, on ground? And how are you thinking about that? Do you want to attract a field of scholars? That means you're going to have to discount more heavily, but it's critical because it's a showcase program. So understanding that mix, building that revenue view is important. And then there's the expense side of this. What is the situation with your current faculty? As Kathy mentioned, can you take and either leverage out more from the faculty because you have more capacity for them, or pivot so that their skill sets are still used very effectively? Or is it someplace you want to work with adjunct faculty? And what's your timeline to be able to do that? And then never forget about your program development costs. If you do marketing, and the marketing, by the way, please don't lose sight of the fact one of your biggest marketing assets is your webpage and your catalogs. All those bots out there searching for data, they search your course catalogs. How you describe and how you label your programs matter a lot. And since you're already printing it, it's not an added cost. So keep that in mind. And then finally, being able to do what-if analyses. This is an opportunity with capabilities, depending upon how many comparisons you want to do at the same time, the type of tools that we'll touch on, that you want to think about this. But looking at your potential program or program opportunities for investment, think about them in three different ways. One would be, if you were fantastically successful, what could that look like and what it would mean? On the opposite end of the spectrum, what's the lowest you think might be possible? And by the way, is that enough? Because it well might be. And then what's the mid-range? So you have an opportunity to look at that. Now, I mentioned the details. Go ahead, flip, Monica. I want to spend just a moment on a few of these because they do matter. And as you think about your data tools and the data you're gathering, they really are in some of these areas. Enrollment, I talked about. Never overlook your retention rate. One of the things Kathy really didn't give enough justice to the effort at Lindenwood, long before they talked to us, they had gone to work on their student retention factors and have made enormous strides in holding on to their undergraduate students. By definition, that is growth in and of itself and retention of tuition revenue. And this is becoming more important because the broader the base on 90 credit hour bachelor's degrees grows, the bigger the impact is on your overall tuition outlook, because there you're dealing with 3 years, not 4, of undergraduate revenue. So getting your sizing right and thinking about your retention rates do matter here. And then it's also useful to take a look at national growth rates for programs. We've touched on the revenue side. I won't go there. Instructional costs, we tend to look at them as curricular mapping and cost per student credit hour and what's going on at the course and section level, because that's really where opportunities and efficiencies exist. And of course, don't forget non-instructional costs where they exist. And if you have to develop a program, what are you having to invest for new programs, new curricula? And then the ability to put it together. Go ahead, Monica.
Hi,
So,
Mindy. Really
yes.
fast, while you were just on that slide, how do you recommend determining the accurate size for, a projected program?
Well, there's 3 different ways that we know of. One has been the age-old piece, which is you look at peer institutions that you consider relevant to you. If they have the program you're looking at and the program is relatively mature, and see what their completion sizes are to say, okay, would that be enough based on my retention rates, et cetera? That's one. The second way is to use an ability related to just average and median size for all programs in the marketplace that you're looking at and determine if that's useful. The third way, and the way that we do it, is we built a machine learning, not an AI base, but a machine learning model, which is a blend of about 5 different machine learning models to predict completions outcomes. And that looks at about 40 different variables. They examine your institutional variables, including your geographic location, the content and makeup of your programs, the sizing of it. Then it looks at other institutions that have the program you're either considering or the one that you offer to see if there's an opportunity gap, and does a comparison. And out of that, will predict completion size. We use that to feed our pro forma financial model, because we turn that completions data into enrollment cohort sizes. So you have several different options you can undertake. Okay, so from an output standpoint, it's useful to know these things, especially if you, before you get into it, to try and all the way get up to the senior offices in your CFO. If you understand your enrollment and you know what it's going to take to either add courses or where your faculty capacity is, you can plot your student enrollment ramp for a brand new program. You can look at the student mix, in-state, out-of-state, or online, on ground, and then what your faculty view might be based on what you are planning, what you want to use in terms of full-time, tenure track, or adjunct faculty to deliver the program over time to match your cohorts. In addition, on the next slide are the financial outputs that come out of it. So it gives you a quick read on where your break-even points are, how many years in, what your enrollment maturity would be, which here matters a lot if you have minimums imposed by your state education department or your own institution, which has floors or requirements, where that enrollment would be at maturity, what your gross margins would be, and your cumulative cash flows. So you have a sense about those budget line items and how they might flow. Please flip. Now, Kathy talked about it. I'm going to talk about it again for a moment. Remix. Remember your existing resources. Navigate with what you already have on board. You have, in many institutions, thousands of existing courses and hundreds of qualified faculty members, many opportunities. So how do you want to construct those? Well, the first way you can think about it is interdisciplinary, cross-department, or transdisciplinary degrees. Take what you already have. And in our experience, in many institutions, faculty in different departments don't know what's offered in other areas, because if it's not core to their curriculum immediately, they don't have a need to know. So there's a way with tools, and we'll touch on those, starting to think about that and use it. And the first 3 degree programs that Kathy talked about at Lindenwood, the reason they were able to go from their workshop in January of this year to fall launch was grabbing what they already had and making some slight adjustments and repurposing them into very relevant degrees. Now, the advantage, you have a near zero launch cost. You may have to add a couple of courses, some of which you can source internally, others you may want to buy outside, at least temporarily, but you have a much smaller budget. You are maximizing your seat efficiencies because usually you're already offering those courses, and unless they're oversubscribed, you may have capacity to take new students into them, and it gives you an opportunity to see if you can grow that program with very little risk. And I want to underscore, you're talking about launching next fall, not next decade. And right now, timing matters a lot. Things are moving, and not just moving because they're trendy, but they're moving because there are material changes in how work is getting done, how the world is thinking about work, and what's immediate relevant. And finally, just as a thought, you're not betting the house on a new venture. You're not sinking $2 million to start up a brand new program. You're leveraging strengths you already know where to deliver on. You have a wider market perhaps that you can reach, and you've reduced your risk profile. Now, what could that look like? Well, one example, here is an example of a place where in this institution, they offered music, and they had these 5 music courses already in place. They offered business. So you can see the 4 business courses they already had in place, and they offered computer science. But what could they make with that? Well, if they added a new course in audio engineering and a new course in artist management, they could create a music production and management degree. Now, for some institutions, that would not make any sense. If you're sitting in the Nashville area, or if you're in the Los Angeles area, or in the New York area, or in other areas of the country where you have opportunities in this space, these industries are growing, you could look at this and offer a program without very much additional investment. So Remix is designed to take a look at it and identify your opportunities. And then one final thought on this, if you'd flip, please. The advancements in AI are helping to allow you to securely combine your data with real market intelligence. We offer a tool that does this, but you could craft this as well if you had an appetite to do it. It's important to know remixing is never one and done. And if you build a comprehensive model, you want to think about real-time program gaps, where the market demand sits, and your curriculum reuse opportunities. You want to ground it in your current catalog, of course, and think about your strategic plan, because you don't want to get off strategy just because you could. I'm usually the first to say there are a lot of very good programs out there. There are not many great programs for every institution. This is about finding great and great for you, leveraging what you have. And it also gives you the opportunity to get a sense of how much cannibalization you might suffer. So program naming conventions are noted here because, as you know, a lot of times programs class only by classification codes, but our tool uses names because so much is being blended these days. So two final thoughts. One is about the tools that are available and where you might find them. Please flip, Monica. From our standpoint, we've started with the program market demand and analytics, and this is to the question about what data did Lindenwood use. They used the external markets data from our systems. That was everything from internal demand, external needs, employer requirements, competitive pressures, wages and information. They also used the predict program tool, which mapped to their portfolio and their unique institutional factors, and then forecasted opportunity sizings and current opportunity gaps in the current program portfolio. Their program economics was built so you could see the cost per student hour, and you could see if you launched a new program, what those costs might most likely look like, and if you expanded something, what it would be, as well as figuring out where you might find efficiencies. And then the pro forma tool gave the opportunity to do the scenario planning and the financial assessment. Lindenwood used facilitated workshops in both areas for the program opportunity as well as the program economics component of it to see what potential was there, and the dashboards that I mentioned early on for information, integrating that so you could keep track and see what was occurring on a per program basis. So final thoughts, think about agile, academically and financially sound decision making and what it actually requires. Being able to move with alacrity means you need to be engaged across the institution. People need to be a part of the conversation, because if not, oftentimes it sets up resistance that is understandable, but it's not as helpful as everybody thinking and contributing. And then finally, having a clear and transparent process that goes with that, because that actually makes that happen. And having an open discussion about trade-offs, because you can't do everything. There's not enough money to do everything. And so you have to think about them in both financial and academic terms, but most importantly, in terms of your students, the outcomes they're coming to you for, and what it is you are trying to support them for, and your stakeholder community as well. Having the data to be able to do that matters, obviously, and having tools that will help you with it so that you're not caught in a manual process, so that you can do ongoing management and adjusting. So let me stop there, see if there's any other questions that we may have. I know we have 6 minutes left, but if not, both Kathy and I are reachable after this, and I know that copies of the slides will be provided.
Yeah, Mary, so we did have a question come in during your last slide there. Does the Grade EI's Pro Forma tool allow the user to include multiple student progression rates?
Yes, by year. And let me just add a few other things, because we didn't want to take you through individual in-depth views. That pro forma tool allows you to do the analysis Change and add increases in tuition or reductions, increases, percentage, salary and benefit changes, or other things for your faculty lines. It also allows you to do a comparison of build versus buy, whether that's, in terms of sourcing curriculum or choosing to use an external partner for things. And it gives you the ability to assess the cost of delay of a decision. So all of that's embedded in the tool.
Incredible. And just one more to expand on that. So if an institution attracts both full-time, so comprehensive tuition students, as well as per credit students, is it possible to include both of those in the pro forma tool?
Yes, we would work with you about how to best do that. And by the way, we also give you the opportunity to add in extraordinary revenues or extraordinary expenses. So let's say you have some level of state incentive monies for nursing, and you're looking at starting or expanding a nursing program, you could add those revenues in. Or if there were extraordinary expenses one time that need to occur, those can be added in as well. So you get a full picture view.
Incredible. Thank you so much. I don't see any other questions that came through, but if you do end up having any additional questions, feel free to reach out to us at info@gradei.us. We'd be more than happy to answer questions after this webinar as well. So thank you again for everyone who joined us today, and thank you, Dr. Vasovich, for joining us and sharing your insights. We appreciate you taking the time to join our conversation. We hope for everyone here that you guys found today's discussion valuable. I do want to say if you enjoyed today's session, we would love for you to join us for our next webinar. It's our monthly webinar where we explore on-campus and online programs across all levels from certificates to doctoral degrees. We use our latest data on student enrollment, Google search volumes, and job postings, as well as non-degree demand, and we uncover emerging trends. So we would love to see you there if you are able to make it. With that, again, thank you everybody so much, and reach out to us if you have any additional questions.